So evolution of the system has evolved with the introduction of new players and new formats. When we started out, we were the only format at that point in time in our category. Now gaming as an overall ecosystem has evolved tremendously over the last 6 to 7 years, specifically with mobile internet penetration growing the way it has and reaching the places that it has, and also combined with the fact that digital payments have really accelerated growth for this industry overall. The way, at least I've seen our ecosystem kind of change and evolve, is that we have more players now, we have different categories now. When we started, there was only online rummy, then there was online poker, then there's daily fantasy sports, and now you have a variety of other categories and segments that are really operating. We've seen an influx of awareness, talent, different users wanting to touch base with different kinds of categories. It's made us understand where is really our product market fit in this larger ecosystem, what's the kind of customer that we want to go after and what's the kind of customer that we don't want to go after. In terms of why we need whitelisting is simply because now there are so many operators. And therefore, from a time where there were potentially 4 operators and you knew all of them, to now having 400, it's important to have some kind of guardrail for the customer and the overall ecosystem to ensure that there are operators that are there, that operate with degrees of integrity, that operate with certain guardrails of how marketing has to be done, some ethics in advertising, player protection, specifically around financial transactions, whether their money is safe, whether money is coming in, going out through legitimate means, and how do we audit and kind of confirm all of that, because we don't really have formal regulations within this space yet. So potentially, if we have to segue into an India where this becomes a regulated space like it is in the West, then we need to start with some measures on our own. Now, we as a company have already taken a lot of initiatives that have now become the benchmark for the industry, overall through our federations, on what are the kind of protocols and things that we need to follow vis-a-vis advertising, vis-a-vis game integrity, vis-a-vis financial transactions and how they're meant to happen. So, simple example is none of our platforms or entities that are with our federations are allowed to accept deposits in non-digital formats. So everything has a white trail. There's some source of where the fund is coming from, and there's a source of where the money goes back into. There's no question of any kind of cash or unaccounted money coming through to our platform, which is at least allaying one major concern which exists in the illegal betting and gambling space, which is on money laundering and end users of that money. So this is how I've seen a lot of it move in terms of how the ecosystem has evolved. And the need for us to have whitelisting today is because 6-7 years ago, we didn't have such a large illegal betting and gambling market. And therefore, because the lines are blurred between both the public and the policymakers of what is really online gaming, it is important for us to have a whitelist of operators that are genuine, operating within India, paying taxes in India, that should be allowed to operate here, vis-a-vis those who aren't following any of this and therefore should technically not be allowed to operate here, even though they continue to operate illegally. I think it starts with us trying to all come together and follow the same kind of principles, operating principles, that makes the government's job easier in terms of how they will come up with regulations and how they can start. And once that starts, it's an iterative learning process. And then some will get filtered in terms of the operators that are operating the way they should be operating, and vis-a-vis some that don't operate in conformity to the standards that are placed. In our ecosystem, at least in our vertical, I don't see the use of AI specifically in a gaming scenario. AI may come into place for more optimal marketing campaigns and customer retention related campaigns, but nothing really in terms of the gameplay and anything foul that can happen, because everything is monitored and controlled strictly. We don't have non-humans or bots playing on our platforms, and that will continue even if there is AI out there. This event, okay. I think first of all, if there is enough knowledge and information disseminated about this whole space and the intersection between gaming, cybersecurity and digital trust and awareness, that's a plus, because every now and then key stakeholders across government and society need to be told every now and then that these are the pitfalls that exist, these are the threats that are there, these are potentially areas where something can go wrong, and therefore you must be aware of all the things that can potentially happen. What are the laws that are already in place that may or may not be enforced, but at least there is some place for you to get resolution, find resolution. And also more awareness in terms of these are the things I should probably avoid doing to avoid falling trap or falling prey to cybercrime. It'll help overall. So I wouldn't limit this specifically only to gaming. I think events like these are important and the need of the hour, because cybercrime is one of those things that has not yet reached the consciousness of the average Indian. We just feel, okay, something happened, okay, somebody lost some money, but it's not the same as somebody going, it won't make the same headline of somebody going, you don't read anybody robbing a bank anymore. It's not because of better security, it's just, it's a waste of effort. You'd rather do everything online and you'd make a lot more money and you never get caught, and the enforcement is lax. So when you see this kind of a threat growing, then I think it needs more media coverage, which is the only way that then there is a greater degree of awareness that all of this happens. There, the biggest vulnerability is really what we see in gaming, at least, is that identities are available for a very low cost. So you, for example, may go to somebody who has no interest in gaming and pay him 500 rupees and say, give me your Aadhaar. And then you may go to somebody else and say, give me your mobile number for another 500 rupees. And now suddenly you have created this identity of his phone number, his Aadhaar card. In my records, I can't map the two because I don't have access to UIDAI. So I will just think this phone number, this gentleman from this place, that's how I will store it on the records. This is the biggest real vulnerability for that strata of society, because suddenly at the end of the year, when you have to withdraw money, again you need a PAN card. So you will go back to the same person and say, give me your PAN card because we need the Aadhaar and PAN to match. He will say, where did this income come from? I have no clue. Why am I liable to pay any kind of income tax, or what is this about? I have no clue. But the money and the person who has transacted has already done what he has had to with your identity and made some money and left. And he is not going to pay the tax on it or, do anything about it. So it is just going to come through the way it is going to. So this, at that end of society, is where some level of awareness and vulnerability is there. We have seen cases of it ourselves where people have said, this is not I have never played this game. Then you show them, but look, this is your Aadhaar that has been uploaded here. Then they find out either it's a friend or a family member who has asked them, taken it, used it, created, and has started playing. So I think that is the level of awareness that needs to kick in over there, saying, keep your personal information to yourself unless specifically needed. Data breach is possible anywhere, but we have enough and more cybersecurity measures in place that, for it's almost like a line of control and then there's a fortress. So you'll have to get through 6 layers before you get to where the information is potentially stored, and the information is always encrypted. So even if you get there, your name and phone number is not going to be written or saved or stored as is. So anybody who is able to get through, say, 6 layers of security is still not going to get the outcome that he wants to get. But having said that, given that it's almost like there is cyber warfare out there, nothing is impenetrable, nothing is unbreachable. You saw banks globally get affected, you saw airlines get affected recently. Anything is possible if somebody really deviant puts their mind to it. Luckily, we haven't grown that big for somebody to think we're important enough to attack us.